Welcome to the Kale Hauser Leadership Seekers podcast. Today, let's talk about living the brand. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Hauser Leadership Seekers podcast. My name is Kale Hauser, CEO and co-founder of Kale Hauser Leadership. I'll be your host for the next however long I decide to talk about. This is another episode from my car. I appreciate you joining me today as I try to kind of fit in keeping up to date with these podcasts and bringing you value. As hopefully that it is. If it is, please let me know. I would really appreciate it. Likes, comments, subscribe, shares. Let your buddies know. Let your coworkers know. If there's something from one of my podcasts that really struck you, that is helping you work through some things, or maybe opened your ears and your eyes to a new concept that you hadn't really thought about before, that would be fantastic to hear. And I'd love to get that feedback and that this is beneficial to you. Today, I was wanting to talk about building your brand and living your brand, because there's a difference between building a brand and then actually living that brand. And this was something that I heard Mark Wahlberg, the actor and business person and entrepreneur. He runs the F45 fitness centers and of course the burger joints and all that kind of stuff as he's branching out into different areas. But he talked about you have to live your brand. Now, we're going to make an assumption that you kind of already have an idea of what your branding looks like. Now, it may not be as extreme as, think of some of the people that we know are in the forefront of our brains that have very prominent brands. Certainly Grant Cardone is one, right? 10X. That's his big thing. 10X. You'll see his flag in front of his building in his office in Miami. You see it all over his, the hats that he wears, cash flow, that type of stuff. He has a very specific brand and it's very prominent. And there are other people, in our world, kind of marketing world, ClickFunnels. Russell Brunson has a very prominent brand in how they advertise themselves and they set themselves up in the marketplace. Same thing with Rudy Moore, Mawer. He's red, like his whole thing. His icon is kind of this lion with this big giant red mane, and he wears red everywhere, like red glasses and red vests and big poofy stuff. He's very out there and outrageous a little bit in the sense, but that's his branding. You're very, it's eye-catching, it's appealing, and he lives that. And he's worked very hard to develop that brand over time, and to where you kind of associate this red motif with his brand. And there are hundreds and thousands of other companies that are just like that you can probably think of. Think of any really kind of famous, and they build a brand around, whether it be their logo or their culture or a certain person. They build their brand around that. But beyond just building your brand, so say you're your local business person, you've got your local shop there, and you've got your logo, and you've got it is what you do, and you've got your products and services that you offer, whether it be like through a catchphrase, and you've done some advertising, and you're trying to make yourself known, get out of obscurity in your marketplace, in your industry, in your community. But how are you living that brand? What does your brand stand for? Have you thought about that? Beyond just the visual appeal of, being visually attracted to, like, oh, that's a really neat logo, or that's a cool catchphrase, or I like the design of that thing. The colors are appealing and eye-catching. What does your brand stand for? Do you have that in mind? Have you thought about that when you've thought about your brand and how to create that? Because it goes so much further beyond just what my logo is, what my color scheme is, what my color palette is, like all the things that go into branding, who my avatar is. You have to, when we talk about living your brand, is what does it stand for? What are the core values of your company? What do you stand for as an organization? Are you living that both inside and outside? Now, some of you hopefully you already know, but Liz and I are both certified business coaches with Grant Cardone. We went through their certification process, which was quite extensive, and we've been given the stamp of approval by Grant Cardone Enterprises to teach his stuff, present his stuff, essentially, talk not on behalf or for, but use all the material that Grant and his companies have created over the years. But there is one thing that they were very clear on in the beginning, even though we paid our fee and went through the whole program and all this kind of stuff, there was one thing very clear because you sign a contract with them, was you will represent our brand. And our brand stands for something. It stands for integrity. It stands for honesty. It stands for transparency. Like if you get into some bad things, i.e. like you get arrested or you go through like kind of scandals and all those types of things, like we will drop you. You will no longer be a certified business coach with Grant Cardone Enterprises. And I thought that was really interesting because at the time, here I am, I'm coming out of the military world, contracting world, foraying into this kind of new venture for Liz and I. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That one, yes, it made me feel better about my decision and whom I was choosing to associate myself with, because all those types of things are very important for me and Liz as individuals and in our family. But it's like, yes, that is something that they have thought through, that, and they're being very purposeful. And Grant Cardone talks about this a lot, about branding and building your brand. But beyond that, just living it. Like he's willing to let people go that are his kind of ambassadors of his brand to the community when those people no longer live his brand. Now, he's not saying you have to get out there and 10x everything and, go all that, although it kind of naturally attracts those type of people. But he's talking about when you start to not live the brand in the sense of doing things against the brand, whether it be criminal, kind of antisocial, like all those things that would detract from the movement and thing that Grant is trying to build. He has kind of drawn that line in the sand of, you will not be part of this organization anymore. And I find that hugely refreshing. I find that, the utmost of respect for somebody that's willing to do that. Like, I don't care about the money. My brand and living that brand is not worth the money anymore in order to, associate with somebody that's not living the brand. So what does that look like for you? Have you thought about that? Because your employees, and I've talked about this before in a sense of the people you have on your team, they represent you. They represent your organization, your company, by virtue of you employing them. Now, they may not speak for you. They may not be able to legally bind you to agreements or contracts, things of that nature. But when they're out and about or they're driving your company car, they represent you. Are they living the brand? If they're out driving your delivery vehicle and they're being complete jerks on the road because they're driving down the left lane and everyone's having to pass them on the right, or they're driving just like maniacs of just super aggressive and creating this kind of people that animosity towards your brand because they see your company vehicle weaving out of traffic all dangerous and stuff like that, or even getting pulled over when they see your company vehicle pulled over by police officers. Is that good for your brand or bad for your brand? Probably bad when you think about it. So what are you doing, and are you doing, and if you're not, you should be doing, what are you putting in place to help people live your brand? Because it may not be something as nature of, you've got a certification program that you're running people through to speak on behalf or be your ambassador, but more simple in the sense of, what is the person answering your phone? What are they doing to live your brand? The person that are shipping your packages, what are they doing? Your customer service people, your marketing, like all the levels of the staff that work for you, how are they living your brand? Are they even bought onto your brand in the sense that they're bought into your program, they're bought into your ideals, your values, your vision, your mission? Because that's what it's really all about, is living your brand. And that is how you create amazing culture. That's how you create something that's just like a cool side business, like, all right, I'm going to create this small business over here, versus you move into that realm of beyond just the services and products that you offer. Like, people actually want to be part of your organization. And if you look at especially the massive organizations, the Googles, the Facebook, the Meta, all that kind of stuff, Microsoft, they've built a brand that people live beyond that. They attract people that want to be part of that brand. Whether you agree with it or not, that those individual companies is irrelevant. They've done a really good job of, when you come to work for Google, you become like a Google person, right? Because they've built a very specific culture that attracts those types of people. And there's no reason you can't do that as a small business owner. There's no reason you can't be the number one that people want to work for in your community, because you've built this amazing brand and you actually live it. So that is my encouragement to you today. How do you live your brand? This goes beyond wearing your hat. This goes beyond having your polo that you wear all the time and people recognize you with your logo. This is really about your culture. This is about your values. This is about how you live day to day, how you interact with people in your society and your community in order to create that hopefully positive reputation for your company and for your people. And you'll see that flow out through all aspects of your business, both with employees, with vendors, with prospects, with customers, all those types of things as you build your brand and you live it. And this is something that Liz and I are trying very hard to focus on, even though we're a small company right now. We're trying to build a brand in the sense of these are what we stand for. We stand for integrity. We stand for results. We stand for being forthright. We stand for relationships. And we are living that in how we interact with people. Like, no matter who you are, if we have an interaction with you, we value that relationship. No matter who you are, we value the integrity that we are bringing to the table, and that we'll be open, honest, and forthright with you in what we can provide or not. And then ultimately the results that we will get you. Like, that's what we live, is what are the results we can get for our clients. If you need help with that, if that's a type of person that you want to work with, please let us know. We would love to work with you, or at least talk with you and see if we're a good fit. But outside of that, live your brand, write it down. How are the things, and what are the things you can do to start living your brand beyond just, writing or having your logo on your shirt or on your hat, to really communicate that to your community and your potential clientels and your employees. Hope you're doing fantastic. If there's anything we can help you with, please let us know. Hit VIPleadershipmastermind.com and you can join our leadership mastermind. We meet twice a week for an hour each time. You get a chance to answer all your questions and do some pretty legit training as well. I look forward to talking to you. I look forward to seeing you in our mastermind. No matter where you're at in the world, have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.